Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and one of the bigger surprises from E3 was the new Spider-Man game. And this will actually also be the last of like the actual like single games that I do. I'm gonna do a big video, or rather, big as in more than one topic on E3 in general, including stuff that either I've already talked about in like smaller forms or stuff that it wasn't really substantial enough to make its own video, and I'm not really the kind of channel that just does videos after videos of just nothing but like even the smallest news updates on stuff. So I'll be talking about stuff you probably would have expected me to do videos on their own, but you know. Anyway, this one here is the new Spider-Man game, and it was announced for I think exclusively PS4. Um, and in the image that you see, you can definitely it definitely kind of looks like a movie tie-in. I don't believe it's a movie tie-in. I think it's meant to be its own thing. It's definitely still like the open world thing, and graphically it has it looks more like one of the movies. I think it might just be due to the I think it's really just the suit. The suit looks really modern and whatnot. I imagine you'll probably get to have the classic Spider-Man costume, probably just different kinds as well. But it's I think this is gonna be like its own thing, and it's being developed by Insomniac, uh, who made the Spyro games. For some reason, I thought they made the other Spider-Man games on PS1, but that was actually NeverSoft. And I think they're by Activision now. I don't know who's publishing this. I think it's the word around Marvel in terms of games is that they're kind of restructuring how they do things. I get the impression that they may be trying to do sort of like a, for lack of a better term, Marvel gaming universe. Maybe that's completely conjecture. That's completely speculative. But if they're gonna start making games that aren't really tied to a movie, which is what people have kind of wanted for a while, kind of like the Arkham games, um, because those aren't really based on anything, and those are just like pure video game adaptations of comic book of Batman, of comic book characters. And I know, for me personally, I do enjoy the non movie tie-in ones like the Spider-Man games. One of the first games I played on my Super Nintendo was Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems, which I streamed. The Lego games are always pretty fun. Those are movie inspired. I don't know if those are necessarily tie-ins, but from what we've seen in the footage, it looks like it's going to be your typical open world. I almost said Spyro, Spider-Man game. And one thing to note is that Yuri Lowenthal is actually playing Spider-Man, who I think that's actually kind of cool. And I remember, I think it was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game based on the movie. He was voiced by Sam Riegel, and now he's voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, which I actually think is a really good choice. So he'll do really well. I don't. There's not really anything else we can really say on it. I guess one thing, the main reason why I wanted to make this one a standalone is because I feel like, besides it being just a giant sort of surprise, because let's be real, like, I know there's Spider-Man Homecoming, and I haven't seen anything on Homecoming, so for all I know, I don't know if this is a tie-in to it or not. I don't think they've said whether or not it is or not. I think the word is that it's not, and I think it would be more interesting if it wasn't. But the main reason why I wanted to do this video in particular before going into the big E3 wrap-up thing is I feel like depending on how this game does, it can set up the future of superhero video games. Not counting like anime and whatnot, because I know, like, friggin', depending on when I upload this, July 1st, that's when the Berserk anime is starting, and then we're getting the Dynasty Warriors Berserk game. We're getting Xenoverse 2. The Attack on Titan game is coming out. Those are comic books, and so they're kind of like the whole superhero thing, but I don't know, like it's a bit different. I don't really. It's kind of weird. Um, I think just because the general genre of manga and American comic books is just a different thing. Um, and I feel like with superhero video games, they it seems like there's always been a need to sort of tie it into um, another like one of the movies. I know on Did You Know Gaming they did a Unseen 64 special on a open world Deadpool game, and Deadpool I actually kind of like just because he's just, if not just because he's entirely red is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, my main point here is that I think that this game has a lot of potential for future superhero games. Whether or not it could have started something without the success of the Batman games, I don't know. I'd wager it doesn't necessarily matter. I think that they might have been inspired maybe by the Arkham games, and I'm not saying that they're going to be like the Arkham games. I just mean like the idea of like the superhero video game that isn't really based on any of the moves or even one of the comic books for that matter. I think they may have been. I think the Arkham games might have been inspired from one of the graphic novels. I'm not sure. But I really like the idea of, along with like the original movie stories and whatnot. I like the idea of like getting like original video games and whatnot. I know the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've been basing it off of the comic books, and I think they're also I think they're kind of like doing their own thing as well, in different ways. But I think for video games, I think that's just the main thing, not tying it into a movie, mainly just because of the time constraints. Like if it was tied into the movie, but it was allowed to come like out like after the movie, and they had more time to work with it, it would be fine. And that's the main thing with this one. I'm kind of rambling a bit, but that's my general stance. And I guess to kind of summarize everything, I'm interested in this game, one, as a Spider-Man fan, and two, out of my want for a non-movie tie-in Spider-Man game. I actually kind of want one for Wolverine. I think Wolverine might be my favorite Marvel superhero. Spider-Man is pretty up there. I'm not entirely. I feel like Wolverine is definitely my number one favorite. I'm sure he's probably a lot of people's number one favorite. That's the one thing about superheroes. There are just so many that you can pick different kinds for your favorites. Like I like Iron Fist and Nova just from a design standpoint, and from what I played of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, which has been my only exposure to them. Literally, I didn't even know they existed until I played that game. But yeah, and in terms of hopes for this game, the only thing I really want, hopefully, I'd like plenty of costumes. That's what I liked about the PS1 games, and I also played the N64 version. You could like have like the different costumes. Scarlet Spider would be cool, even if it's the new version of the Scarlet Spider where like he's like a zombie or something. And I mean like the character, because like the suit is like black and red, which looks kind of cool. I would prefer kind of the original one with like the wrist thingies. That's been my favorite version of Spider-Man design wise. The Ben Reilly, quote unquote. I think that's sort of like the technical term for that version, because I know the Scarlet Spider, there's like the one where it's like all red, but he's got the blue hoodie, and that one's not bad either. But we'll just have to see. But yeah, it'll be good, and it was one of the big surprises. Obviously, not the only surprise, but I'll be talking more about general E3 stuff and stuff that I haven't talked about that I feel like isn't really long enough to make a big video, because I don't want to make like a 1 minute video on some of the stuff, but or we'll see. I might change my mind by the time this goes up, and then suddenly Berseria is like the next video. But anyway, I've said enough. Go back to watching the rest of your stuff. This is Flames Are On, aka YouTube Sasuke, signing out. Nighty night. Even though it's probably daytime.